What if you knew yourself at a younger age? And I don't mean what if you could talk to your younger self. No, no. What if you knew who you were at a young age? The possibilities, right? What if you knew who you were, how you functioned, and all the rest at a young age? What would that mean? What does that mean now? Most of us, I would assume, don't tend to know ourselves until a later stage in life. But imagine if, well, things were different. Imagine if your parents taught you to know yourself, to love yourself, and to learn yourself. And imagine if we were taught that in school. Can you imagine if instead of hours of math class that we may never use for the rest of our life, or barely retain at the young ages that we are taught it, that instead of those things, imagine if we but had an hour a day of discovering ourselves and being taught about ourselves, rather than looking at all of the other things in this life and being taught about them. What I'm suggesting is we have no business trying to understand other things, let alone other humans, if we can't even understand ourselves. It seems like a no-brainer. It's such a big deal. Many of the circumstances in our lives, like the life events, the things we go through, be it positive or negative, but mainly the negative get the highlight here because it's through adversity that we grow. We tend to grow quite a bit. That is, if you make it out okay. We tend to grow through adversity. But should it take adversity to grow? Well, I'm sure there are many with the views of, yes, I totally owe it all to the bad and this and that. Okay. There's a lot that could be said for the positive, too. The lack of needing the negative. I think I can't even say undervalued because it's not even really known. It's not even talked about. Why? Why is it not talked about? Ignorance begets ignorance. That's how it works. Well, it touches quite a few subjects on its own. Ignorance begets ignorance. And this is no blame to parents, but merely a highlight towards the fact that this is very much a reality even for them. And passed down to you. You were not taught about yourself by your parents because they were not taught about themselves by their parents. Most likely. That tends to be how it goes. And with the chaos of life and how it runs its course as you're growing up, and how through you growing up, the odds are your parents are growing up themselves and growing themselves as a process through bringing up you, if that were the case. So challenges definitely on the table too, absolutely, without a doubt. Hardships, more than likely. The focus here, though, is what was not taught. I feel it's very simple. We were not taught about, hey, you have thoughts and feelings that are very valid, or it's not even about validating it. It might be just about knowing it. Let's consider it. I'm guessing for the majority of your childhood life up to teens, maybe early 20s, you didn't even know. You didn't even know who you were, what your capabilities were, your strengths, your weaknesses, your tendencies, your social needs, your social norms, being adverse to other social needs and social norms. Are you introverted? Are you extroverted? These are very critical, large questions that I feel have zero coverage, to be honest. Imagine if in your school they had an hour of sitting down with all your classmates, all your friends in elementary school, and your teacher was like, "So, I want to know about you, and let's learn about you. Let's learn about you, and let's learn about each other together. It's going to be really cool." Imagine. "So, Jimmy, do you like hanging out with a lot of people? Or do you like hanging out by yourself? Or maybe with just one or two like people that you really like hanging out with? What do you kind of feel about that?" Jimmy replies, or may reply, "You know, I kind of like being by myself. I like playing with my toys by myself. I like walking around in the playground at recess by myself. And I don't know, it just gives me time to think." I can imagine such an innocent answer. Working with the youth for many years. Same for little Stephanie over there. "Hi, my name's Stephanie." "Well, hey Stephanie, so you heard the questions I asked Jimmy, right? What do you think about that?" "Well, I actually really like all my friends, and I love hanging out with all of them. If I could hang out with all of them at once, I would do that every day. And I try to find them at recess, and we have the best fun together. We always talk, we always play, and it's always the best time. I am so thankful for my friends." "That's very nice, Stephanie. That's wonderful. Well, we're going to learn about a couple new words today. Don't worry about math homework. We're not doing any math today, science, or anything like that. No. Today, we're learning about you. You. Point around the room. And we're learning about each other. It's going to be really cool. I kind of tear up just thinking about it, because like the value that this would bring to developing the youth of today is mind-blowing. Get them away from phones. Get them away from computers. Go back to what needs to happen. They need to understand themselves to be any bit decent individuals later on in life. But imagine this class. So the two words we're looking to learn today are introverted and extroverted. Can you say with me, introverted? Introverted. Extroverted. Extroverted. Very good. So, if you find yourself, class, if you think that you like kind of being alone on yourself, like Jimmy over here, that is fine. That is A-okay. And that is awesome. You are awesome. Everyone say, "You are awesome" to Jimmy. "You're awesome, Jimmy." Thank you. You are awesome for wanting to be alone and enjoying your time alone. And thinking is a beautiful, amazing thing. Do it more. And having your really close friends and just a few of them, that is fine. That is A-okay. And Stephanie over here, you are awesome. It is A-okay for you to have as many friends as you want and hang out with them all the time, every day. Find them at recess, play like crazy. Awesome. Everyone say, "Stephanie, you are awesome." "Stephanie, you are awesome." I can see it play out so clearly because, again, the experience with youth over the years, they're very receptive to these kinds of talks. What in the world have we done? I'm not saying me, what have we done as a society, as a, oh gosh, I don't even know how to say that. Whatever structure you think we have in growing up our youth, and yeah, family life definitely takes a toll because many broken families exist, I'm well aware. But imagine if they had at least that little bit of exposure to learning about themselves in school, something away from family. Yes, they bring that home and they will have the challenge of merging the two or understanding the two, but it starts there. It definitely starts there. It starts with the youth, it starts when they're young, and it is a sinister thought to think that this is all by design, that we are not, specifically not taught about ourselves. And the conundrum of introvert and extrovert specifically would be a topic, gosh, I could last a whole month in a class of just delving deep with these kids to understanding those two terms, understanding each other. There's such a beauty to that. Understand it, think about it. I know I'm not the only one who can possibly think this would be a good idea, let alone a powerful way to change. The youth are so valuable, but they don't believe it. The youth are amazing, but they don't believe it. The youth have potential, but they don't believe it. What the hell? The youth have so much potential, arguably more than you or me, but that potential is flushed down the toilet very quickly with introduction of other things and lack of foundation in other things. This is not the one to end all on the subject matter, no. This is just one branch on the tree, if you will. Very important one. But imagine just the subject alone of introverted to extroverted and the difference there. Imagine how much confidence you would instill in a child who is developing, who is growing with their classmates, with their friends at an early age, if you told them the truth, for one, but encourage them with something that they level with. In this case, identifying and calling them out on an attribute of themselves. Example, little Jimmy over there. Guess what, Jimmy? You might be an introvert. Wow. Whoa, cool. I don't want to hear any preaching about identity and taking on any terms as identity. It is all irrelevant. It is behind the concept of showing them at least a basic framework of understanding that these tendencies that they don't even know exist are valid. They are valid and real and will have consequences. I don't even think that's the right word for it, but that'll work for now. Consequences. This is not a new thought for me. I have waited way too long, years, to share thoughts like these, for reasons that are dumb and all my own. But nonetheless, I feel like it's time to at least get some of them out. Because all of this stems from personal experience. That is the value of even something as silly as a personality test. Cast all the shade you want on it. It is at the very least, a basic framework, a vague picture of understanding tendencies and self. And that is more than a lot of people will get. But imagine, as this was me, not exactly Jimmy, but in Jimmy's shoes. Imagine, knowing at the age of kindergarten and in all the grades of elementary school, knowing that I am different, being conscious and aware of other people's habits, of other people's feeling that they put off, of being able to read body language that early tripped me the crap out because I didn't understand why I was intaking all of this information this way. Understanding about that came about in slowly but surely over time. But what was very clear to me, even if I wasn't fully aware and realized it, there's a little something called intuition. Very real thing. And with a heightened sense of intuition growing up, even in those settings, this is just school, grade school. Even in that setting, it was such a volatile-like thing to have. Because I understood things about people that they didn't even understand about themselves. I was able to make friends with anybody because I knew and understood where they're coming from before they even knew it. I knew what their social needs were. As a freaking 6, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, I understood their social needs that early on. And a part of me understood that I understood it. Did not know what that was called. Did not know what that meant. Other than, I guess my conclusion, being young, intaking it, was I understand them. At least to some degree. No, not fully. I understood this friend, that friend. And I loved them no less. Whereas the same tendencies, the same habits from this friend or that friend would deter other people from being their friend. I was very much aware of these things at a very early age, tripping me out. Holy crap. It was so bizarre, the days that I would think about that. I would become aware that I was doing it. I was like, what is going on? What does this mean? I thank God for the ability to just accept it at the time, because I don't know what that would have done if I didn't accept it and just went, what? Would I just go mad trying to figure it out at that age? Probably, who knows? But something very curious I thought of subconsciously during those years. I noticed that I could make friends with anybody, and I for the most part did. It wasn't like I was just actively running to each classroom going, hey, be my friend. No, it was, interactions were very simple to me, effortless, fluid for interacting and communicating, even that at the young age. Very simple language as a child. Just love them, understand them, and know that they want to be understood. That's something intuitively I knew back then. And that paved the way for great things, because a lot of those same friends feel the same today as they did back then. It's a timeless feeling. Timeless. The people that fade in and out of life, they come in seasons, and that's fine. We'll get to that talk another time. But for the ones that stay, they're the ones that at some level understood and do understand actively that the level of friend doesn't even matter. Best friend, kind of acquaintance, those are irrelevant, because how you treat somebody, how you show them love, how you show them acceptance, how you understand them, that determines how things will go. And these friendships I'm speaking of, the ones that are timeless, I could have spent maybe a day or two with them and had a really good time. And we're talking like origin friend stories. And then something happened, they moved away. I hadn't seen him for years. And then we meet up again. The gap between those two instances was never there. It is as if no time passed between them. That is a beautiful thing. Underrated. Little known. But those friends, I've noticed that a lot of them are even considered acquaintances when this happens. For whatever reason, there's a bit of reverence or respect that's mutual, and understanding that's mutual. Even if time passes, it will not change this relationship, this friendship. And that is amazing. Beautiful. Friends are some of the foundational elements of our lives because we find them when we are growing up. We find them in the times of our lives when we're developing, and they are developing. It's very much a mutual collective of craziness, silliness, family dynamics, social dynamics, not knowing who you are, knowing who you are, liking this person, liking that person, and just having fun. I miss those times. But friendship is a foundational element of all of this. And this most definitely bleeds into the first subject, which is knowing yourself so you can know others. It's a big deal. I guess what I'm trying to say is, during those early years, I remember and knowing now what things are, kind of having a name for them, at least a way to identify. Knowing now and looking back at the things I felt but didn't know what it was, couldn't have a word for it, didn't have a word for it. Knowing now what I know, looking back, I understand. I was an introvert and I didn't even know it. Very powerful realization there. The connection just blew my mind. Not only was I an introvert, but I was in an extrovert world. I am of the opinion that we are very much in an extrovert-dominated world. For whatever reason, I don't know. I have speculations and thoughts on how this could turn about. It could be that we are just simply less likely to be born. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, it is certainly prominent enough on a surface level that extroverts dominate the known world. And I'll revisit that in a different way. They dominate the face of the world. Because you're not going to know an introvert's there unless they say it. And they don't tend to say it. Introverts don't tend to say, "Hey, I'm right here." They don't tend to do a lot of things. Extroverts, however, see that empty space and they're all about filling it. Which is fine. It is perfectly fine. But I think a slight problem arises when there's a lack of knowledge for these things. A lack of awareness. So the knowledge brings awareness, yes. It's so vital, like, yikes. It's very much rigged, if you will, for the extroverted mentality that is outside your house. You step foot outside your house, you have to be some level of extrovert savvy at the very least to make it. Whether that is adapting to that, or understanding it, or whatever have you, if you're an introvert, you know what I'm talking about. You find comfort in being a recluse. But it is also your bane in many ways. A collective of things. This is very important. So the introverted nature of a person, I think, gets repressed because when we go outside, we can't necessarily be our introverty selves with ease. It definitely takes some explaining when we get looks for not speaking for extended periods of time, or shutting off the external emotions and retreating to our inward thoughts. These are all very strange to those who simply don't know what they're looking at. I think that alone is a problem. It can be fixed, but it's a problem because there are many social norms around introverts and extroverts. But nonetheless, it tends to be the extroverts have plenty of thoughts to fill the empty space, as I said. Do not be fooled. The introverts have quite possibly 10 times more thoughts than you can ever speak in a day. But we don't say them. We may write it down. We may extrapolate our thoughts when listening to music that resonates with our very heart song. We may write it out in poetry. We may bleed on a journal for hours. There are many ways an introvert tends to cope with these things. Imagine if they knew that this was going on. Yes, there's a whole element of awareness to even the introvert. Because at some level they understand that, they're different. Well, I'm so different. Young introvert. I'm so different. I don't know why, but I just don't like going outside. Well, come hang out. No. What I'm saying is, to some extent, they may know it. To some, they might not. It's a big difference in the power of self. If an introvert knows that they're an introvert. That's why I say from the start, imagine if we were taught this. Imagine if we were taught to discover, wow, little Jimmy, I'm an introvert. Wow. That's cool. That's cool. It's acceptable. In this world that will undoubtedly seem very not introverted. Very much so. You can have all the thoughts you want, little Jimmy. Go think those thoughts. Go walk about in solitude doing so. And have joy in that. Absolutely, 100%. There is a power to knowing who you are. It is wonderful. That is the first step in helping others. I'm of the opinion that you cannot give someone something that you don't have. I.e., you can only give out of the abundance of what you have. Let that sink in. Little Jimmy, you're doing damn fine. Go think your thoughts. Be okay with staying indoors. Be okay with having just a couple friends. It's fine. Know yourself, love yourself, and then go love others. Love your neighbor as yourself. So powerful. And I'm not talking about the New Age movement of self-love. Be very clear. Self-love on its own does not do anything as it should, or as you think. Self-love, in actualization, when applied, motivates you and allows you to love others, to love others as yourself, to share that love, as it must be done, as you are called to, if you are of the faith. Love your neighbor as yourself. Absolutely. How are you going to love them if you don't love yourself? Yikes. Yikes. Go forth, little Jimmy, knowing you're doing all right.